Welcome to this lesson on finding the least common multiple. Please make sure you have these notes in front of you so we can begin our lesson. And my students, let's make sure we update our table of contents. The I can statement for this lesson says I can find the least common multiple of two numbers. So let's go ahead and zoom in on our vocabulary on the left hand side. LCM stands for least common multiple. Least means the smallest of a set of values. So you can basically think of the smallest number. Common means something that is the same. And multiple means the product of a number and any whole number. So basically the multiples of 4, for example, would be 4. If I multiply 4 by 2, I get 8. If I multiply 4 by 3, I get 12. If I multiply 4 by 4, I get 16. If I multiply 4 by 5, I get 20. If I multiply 4 by 6, I get 24. So notice I started at 4, and the multiples grew every time I grew out a new number. So multiples get bigger and bigger. So the pattern here is I just kept adding 4 each time. The multiples of 5 would be 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25, and so on, because each time I'm adding 5. And once again, the multiples of 5 continue to grow. So let's go ahead and talk about the right-hand side where it says key concepts. It says the ladder method. So in our previous lesson, we talked about the ladder method. It looks like an upside-down division sign. So if I wanted to find the LCM of two numbers, so for example, if I have 3 and 4, I would place 3 and 4 inside of my upside-down ladder. Then I would ask myself, what number goes into 3 and 4? Well, the only number that I can tell is 1. 1 goes into 3 times, and 1 goes into 4 times. So I know from the previous lesson that I can stop breaking my ladder down because I reached my stopping point. I have a 1 on the left-hand side and I can't go further. So we're not trying to find the GCF. The GCF would be everything on the left-hand side. I'm trying to find the LCM, or the least common multiple. So what I would do is I would go ahead and make an L, which stands for least common multiple, and everything that's inside of that L, you would multiply. So 1 times 3 times 4. When you multiply that together, your LCM should be 12. So we're going to skip this real-life slide for today, and we're going to come back and discuss it in class tomorrow. So now it's time for Guess What I'm Drawing. For example 1, let's go ahead and find the LCM, or the least common multiple, of 14 and 21. So let's go ahead and use our upside-down ladder. Inside of that ladder, let's use 14 and 21. The number that both 14 and 21 have in common would be 7. So let's place a 7 on the outside. 7 goes into 14 twice. 7 goes into 21 3 times. Let's continue our ladder, and let's ask ourselves, what number goes into 2 and 3? The only number that I can think of is 1. 1 goes into 2 twice, and 1 goes into 3 times. So notice we hit a stopping point because we finally hit 1 on the left-hand side of our ladder. So we know that we are done. But we still have to figure out the LCM. So let's go ahead and make an L for LCM. And everything within that L, let's go ahead and multiply. So I'm putting dots in between them. So let's multiply 7 times 1 times 2 times 3. If I multiply 7 times 1, I get 7. 7 times 2 is 14. And then 14 times 3, let's go ahead and do the math, it would be 42. So the LCM, or the least common multiple, of 14 and 21 would be 42. Example number 2 says find the LCM, or the least common multiple, of 36 and 48. Let's go ahead and draw our ladder. Write 36 inside and 48 inside. So let's think of a number that goes into both. The number that I can think of would be 2. 2 goes into 36 18 times, and 2 goes into 48 24 times. Let's continue our ladder, and let's ask ourselves what number goes into 18 and 24. I can think of 3. 3 goes into 18 6 times, and 3 goes into 24 8 times. Let's continue our ladder again. What number goes into 6 and 8 evenly? That would be 2. 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. Let's continue our ladder and ask ourselves what number goes into 3 and 4 evenly? Well, the only thing I can think of would be 1. 1 goes into 3 3 times, and 1 goes into 4 4 times. Notice we've hit a stopping point because we have a 1 on the left-hand side of our ladder. So let's go ahead and figure out the LCM of this by drawing an L, which stands for LCM, all around the outside of the box, and multiply every single number that's on the outside of this box. So let's go ahead and multiply 2 times 3 times 2 times 1 times 3 times 4. Once again, I got all these numbers from the numbers inside of my L. So if I multiply it, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 1 is 2, and 3 times 4 is 12. So let's go ahead and multiply these guys. 6 times 2 is 12, and if I times 12 by 12, I get 144. So my LCM of 36 and 48 is 144. So pause the video and complete the got it problems, and we'll discuss the answers in class tomorrow. Notice there are 2 got it problems on this slide, got it problem A and got it problem B. For example 3, we have a word problem that says hot dogs come packed 10 in a package. Hot dog buns come packed 8 in a package. If we want 1 hot dog for each bun at a picnic with none left over, what is the least amount of each we need to buy? So in a perfect world, we would have a hot dog package that comes with 10 and hot dog buns that come in 10. But we don't. We've got hot dogs come in packages of 10 and buns that come in packages of 8. So it's not a perfect world. Our job is to figure out the least amount of each that we need to buy so that nothing's left over. Whenever we see a keyword like least or smallest, let's think of the LCM. So let's use the LCM of 8 and 10. And let's ask ourselves what number goes into 8 and 10 evenly. I can think of 2. 2 goes into 8 4 times, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. Let's continue our ladder, and let's think of another number that goes into 4 and 5. The only thing I can think of is 1. 1 goes into 4 4 times, and 1 goes into 5 5 times. Notice we've hit a stopping point because we have a 1 on the left-hand side of our ladder. So I can say I'm done with the ladder portion. But I want to figure out the LCM, or the least common multiple. So let's go ahead and draw an L around all of the numbers on the outside of the ladder, and let's multiply them together. So let's take 2 times 1 times 4 times 5, and let's multiply those. 2 times 1 is 2, 4 times 5 is 20, and let's multiply those 2 together, and we get 40. So the LCM is 40, but notice this is a word problem. So that 40 needs to represent a number. The 40 represents 40 hot dogs and buns. So the 40th hot dog and the 40th bun will be the least amount that we would need to have in order to have nothing left over. So for example 4, another word problem says, starting at 6 a.m., a bus makes a stop at my street corner every 15 minutes. Also starting at 6 a.m., a taxi comes around every 12 minutes. What is the next time there will be a bus and a taxi at the corner at the same time? So on this problem, I'm taking a look at some keywords, and I can't find anything that says less than, least, smallest. So how do I know that this is a LCM problem? Here's another trick. Anytime that the problem asks you when's the next time something is overlapping or when something has the same time, then you want to think of LCM. So not just least or smallest, think of something overlapping. So the next time something happens at the same time. So given that information, let's go ahead and find the LCM of 15, because that's every time the bus goes around, and 12 because that's every time the taxi goes around. Also take note, they're telling you 6 a.m. That's the starting time. So both buses and taxis start at 6 a.m. So that's not needed in our problem right now. What we do need is the 15 and the 12. In our ladder, let's go ahead and figure out what goes into 15 and 12, and let's think of 3. 3 goes into 15 5 times, and 3 goes into 12 4 times. Let's break down our ladder again. Ask ourselves what number goes into 5 and 4. The only thing I can think of is 1. 1 goes into 5 times. 1 goes into 4 times. So notice we've hit a stopping point. We have 1 on the left-hand side, so let's say we are done with our ladder portion. Let's make an L using all the numbers inside of the ladder and multiply all the numbers inside of it. So let's go ahead and take 3 times 1 times 5 times 4. And let's multiply that. So 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 4 is 20. And if I multiply 3 times 20, I get 60. So this is a word problem, so we have to make sure we put our units or tell us what 60 means. 60 in this case means minutes. So after 60 minutes, the taxi and the bus will appear at the street corner at the same exact time. So technically, if it starts at 6 a.m., then 60 minutes later, they're going to overlap at 7 a.m. because that's 60 minutes later. So now it's time for some comics with Calvin and Hobbes.
I like homework. Homework makes me happy. I don't want to go outside. I want to do math problems.
Blah!
My brain always rejects attitude transplants.
Well, at least he's trying to have a growth mindset. So go ahead and pause the video and complete the got it problem, and we'll discuss the answers in class tomorrow. So now that you've completed this lesson, go ahead and self-rate yourself and let us know how you feel. If there's any part of this lesson that you do not understand, please go back and watch it again. Also come to class with questions so that we can discuss it in further detail.